Preparing the idea, universal call to holiness. That's where we pick up. Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton and Concepcion Cabrera de Armida, Conchita, uniquely exemplified the Church's teaching on the universal call to holiness, a message formally proclaimed at the Second Vatican Council, but already lived in their lives generations earlier. Neither woman came from a cloister nor began with spiritual privilege. Both were immersed in the duties of marriage, motherhood, and social upheaval. Yet, amid the ordinary rhythms of family life and the extraordinary trials of widowhood, they responded to God's invitation to holiness, not by escaping their circumstances, but by sanctifying them. In doing so, they revealed that the path to sainthood is open not only to priests and religious, but to every baptized soul. Seton and Conchita each lived out this call in different ways. Elizabeth through her active service and Conchita through her interior offering. Seton's life testified to holiness through charitable actions. She founded schools, served the poor, planted the roots of religious life in the fledgling American church. Her faith transformed the landscape of Catholic education and care. Conchita, while less visible, embraced the mystical path of redemptive suffering, spiritual motherhood, and union with Christ crucified. Her writings and spiritual insight continue to guide laity and clergy alike, affirming that a laywoman, even without religious vows, can become a spiritual pillar in the life of the Church. Together, they anticipate and affirm the Council's teaching that every Christian, regardless of vocation, gender, or status, is called to sanctity. Their lives prove that holiness is not a matter of status, but of surrender. By offering their whole selves to God within the very heart of daily life, whether founding schools or changing diapers, enduring loss or riding in the night, they became radiant examples of grace in action. Seton and Conchita showed that sainthood is not reserved for the few, but is the destiny of all who love without counting the cost.
Yeah, I think that that is absolutely true and a really a necessary statement to the modern world. It is true that the church never articulates something until it's about to be misunderstood, right? So certainly it was part of their lived experience growing up that it would never have even dawned upon them that their final end was not holiness, right? But both of them lived in a world where modernism and really the men of the Enlightenment, who no longer believed that sanctity was attainable, really did not want to engage in any type of supernatural life, right? And let's be honest, it is very hard and really impossible to attain sanctity without grace. And these were people who were living specifically without grace. You know, you think back to certain men during that period who were really hedonists, really trying to create libertinism, right, as a way or virtuous path forward. And yet here we have the church sort of, I mean, we're already into the 1960s at this point where that beginning element of losing the reality that all men are called to holiness needs to be respoken to a modern world with a new and stronger voice, not only calling us to that life, but really identifying it with a name, right? Naming something really gives it a little bit more of an impact, that there is truly from God a universal call to each individual person to live a life of grace and thereby achieve our final end, which is perfect happiness with Him in heaven forever.
Exactly, exactly. And I think we're going to run through some quick quotes to show the church has always taught salvation for all, that sort of thing. But you're right. She names something when she sees a need to do so. Believe it or not, she doesn't waste her time or hours when it's not necessary. All right, so first off, Saint Gregory of Nyssa, that is the 4th century. from the De Vita Moisi. The goal of a virtuous life is to become like God. This early church father emphasized that every Christian is called to spiritual ascent, not just monks or mystics, but all who seek God in earnest. St. Francis de Sales, the 17th century, so I don't know, 1300 years later. It
Mhm.
is an error, or rather a heresy, to say devotion is incompatible with the life of a soldier, a tradesman, a prince, or a married woman. Wherever we may be, we can and should aspire to the perfect life. Introduction to the devout life. And finally, into our time frame. Second Vatican Council, 1965. All the faithful of Christ, of whatever rank or status, are called to the fullness of the Christian life and into the perfection of charity. And that's Lumen Gentium's paragraph 40. So, this defining statement of the modern church affirms that the call to holiness is not optional or selective. It is the baptismal vocation of every Christian. And with that, we'll be heading into, in the next episode, the biographical sketch of Conchita. Any wrap up thoughts in this section before we move forward?
Not really. I think that I mean, it's just to be truly aware that God, because he loves in the particular, has a particular love for you, right? And for me. And because of that particular love, he has only one aspiration for us, and that is for us to achieve our end for which we were made, which is perfect happiness with him. And
That's
the
right.
only way that we can do that is to live in grace and through grace become holy. I mean, we're called to be saints. Not called, I always tell my children, do not aim for purgatory, you might miss.
You sure might. That is right. All right, my friends. We will pick up Blessed Conchita in the next episode more fully. Till then, Fides Oratio.